Good evening and a warm welcome to everyone. Today's webinar is presented by Stonelam Surfaces LLP, Laminum. Facade design and materials changes post-COVID. Why? Does the build industry need dynamic products and technology? How can we reboot the build industry? What design concepts should we adapt? Let us find out what our eminent panelists have to share with us today. Our panel includes Mr. Kamlesh Chaudhary, Managing Director, Glasswall Systems, moderator for today's panel discussion. Architect Kiran Kale, co-founder and principal partner in Grain. Architect Vivek Bhole, CMD Vivek Bhole Architects. Mr. Nitin Bhatia, Managing Director, Fawcett Facade Consultancy. Mr. Suresh KR, Director, Axis Facade. I hope we have a fantastic session. Before we start our discussion, I now present to you Stonelam Surfaces LLP, Laminum, and thereafter, Mr. Kamlesh, our moderator for today's session, will take the lead.
welcome to this interesting interaction of eminent guests and panelists over here. Let me introduce them. I'll start with Vivek sir. Vivek Bole sir, renowned architect, many landmarks to his name across the country, and we are very, very pleased to have him over here. He's going to share his views and his vision about the design and evolution of facade design and materials post-COVID. We have Kiran sir with us. He is in principal architect in Grain. Again, a very renowned architect, has delivered many landmarks over here, and we are grateful to him to have him on this show. Nitin Bhatia, very close friend, very well-wisher friend. I've been working with, I've been associated with Nitin for the last 2 decades now. I delivered a lot of landmarks together. He is one of the rocking star in the facade consultancy, and we look forward to hearing his expert views from them. Suresh ji, very near and dear from Mumbai. He represents to Axis Facade, director for Axis Facade. We have delivered a lot of projects together and a lot of landmarks in cities of Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad. So there's a great mix of the designers and the facade experts over here, and we look forward to a very, very interactive session, very, very interesting session. So it would start with the presentation by Vivek sir, and I would request Vivek sir to start his presentation on the topic of evolution of design and materials post-COVID. Over to you, Vivek sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Kamlesh. We as architects are always inspired by the skylines across the world, the skyline of Dubai, the skyline of Sydney, and the skyline on the right-hand corner, Chicago. Now, we'll have to always remember that all these facades, these high-rise buildings, we are inspired so much. They are in very extreme climate, our requirement, our needs are totally different. And while designing facades, while designing our buildings, we can take inspiration from them, but we cannot just follow them blindly. If you see the world map, we fall into a tropical zone, and when we have to learn something from abroad, we'll have to make sure that we are learning something which is suitable for our climate. So if I have to take few examples, I would certainly like to take examples where the buildings are designed for tropical climate, but then in the past we have seen that most of the regulations which we are following today, they are inspired by the architecture which is not really meant for our climatic conditions. And currently in Mumbai, the DC regulation which we are following, the elevations which we are following with fungible FSI and minimal elevational features on our buildings are taken from the references which are there on the left-hand side of the slide. But I would certainly like to go with architecture which is something like this. One Central Park at Sydney, where the facade has got a purpose. I always believe that facade should be always a functional facade. And it is not just part of the outer skin, but it is also going to affect from inside. So facade has got 2 surfaces, and both the surfaces are going to affect from internal and external side of the building. So when we look at the facade of this building, see the flower beds, the balconies, and the kind of greenery what they have achieved. This is second example, Sky Habitat Singapore. Now you can see those stepped terraces. If we want to design something like this in Mumbai, that would be a criminal case on architecture, because our DC regulation do not really support the kind of architecture we are referring to. But in post-COVID, we'll have to really think on this subject seriously, and this is what is going to be needed. Look at the balconies, the greenery, the openness. the sky bridges, the activities, the amenities, gym in the sky terraces. And here is a very classic case of Oasis Hotel Singapore, where a breathable perforated skin, living skin, cladding the whole building. And if you see at different levels, the building floor plates keeps on changing, and the living clock which is enclosing the whole building creates the whole character, and the sky terraces and the crown forms the overall geometry of the building. Now, I believe that all these examples which I gave, they were showing you the functional facades and not just the aesthetical ornamental scheme. So this is what I believe in, and all my buildings which I'm going to show you henceforth are going to follow the same principle. This is a building we recently completed at Indore, a C21 7.5 lakh square foot of a building, where if you see the floor plan, it's a pretty simple plan where a central atrium with capsule lifts inside takes care of vertical transport, and the building is divisible in different small and bigger offices. Actually, after occupation, we found that most of the tenants are occupying 3 or 4 floors together. But keeping the requirement of future, we kept the flexibility intact. And you see the green spaces all around the periphery of the building at different levels. We have created this facade in such a way that the inclined surface gives a terrace of 5.5 feet width of terrace to every office, and they are staggering. So the facade is not just from the outside, but it is also from inside, where a person sitting inside the office can look at the greenery, the garden space which is just outside his facade. And here in section, you can see exactly how the terraces are achieved. Few views, the deck which is at alternate level and at the drop off. This is the complete view, the entrance, and after completion, the side photographs. My second example is a very interesting project. This is very close to my heart. It's a resort hotel at Kumbhalgarh, Ramada, 89 rooms hotel, and here we used local material, random rubble masonry as a cladding material. So we are not just used it as external material, but it is also part of the interior. So it makes the whole structure from inside as well as outside very contextual. And then again, a typical urban case where this project at Goregaon we started as a mall, and then eventually, because of the increase in FSI, converted into office tower plus mall, and then office was converted into a hotel, and eventually, because of the market conditions, after completing almost like 8 floors, the developers converted it into a residential building. Now, every time there was an evolution, and the facade kept on changing. Although the building structure remained same, but the outer scheme kept on changing. And I would like this project to be seen as a residential building, where if you see, there are 3 different parts of this building. The lower part is retail, then 6 floors of parking area, and then thereafter a 50-story tower. So now there are 3 different characters. The shopping gives a glamorous character, whereas there is a very monotonous block of almost 800 parkings at the middle level, and then the character of a residential tower. Now, combining them together was a task. So we used very interesting facade treatment, and if you notice the treatment which I have used in the parking podium, it's a perforated jali along with vertical landscape elements, and the advertisement banners and hoarding areas which are making a nice composition, complementing to the retail activity below, and continuing some character onto the vertical residential tower. if you see, there is actually no element which is non-functional. In the residential building, if you see at the corner, there are those thin round columns. These round columns and the horizontal bands, which are actually the flower beds. The flower beds and the balconies, they are forming this nice elevation, and the alternate height of the decks, they are highlighted with two separate colors so that one can judge the whole geometry. The color scheme is complementing my geometry, and then the outer columns, they are outside the building periphery, create those corner windows. So the building principle is very simple. I have got this horizontal bands in the residential tower with normal windows, and there we have kept wall window ratio in a very good proportion. Almost like 60% of my wall window ratio is naturally lighted. This is the entrance of the building. Again, you can see the combination of vertical green, dry cladding and plaster. The most important here is to see the planning. Now, in the residential buildings, where right now, because of the DC regulation, because of the requirements, we are designing all those match boxes. And in a condition like this, a COVID-19 situation, where the most useful or the functional area is not inside your house, but just outside your house. It's a balcony or the deck. So if we learn from our past, the verandas, the courtyards, and the balconies, they were the main source of light and ventilation, which we are right now missing in our Indian architecture, particularly into the urban context. So if you see even the bigger apartments with both side decks, double height decks, so that you can have good plantation, and then almost every room has got some spillover area outside it. And this whole thing makes the facade. This forms the facade. And you can note that corner columns, which I was telling, and then the corner windows, which I'm achieving in the bedrooms. This is one very interesting project where Steel Authority of India Limited approached us to design this. It was a competition, open competition, and we are right now in final 2. So the design intent was to design a tower which is similar to Tokyo Tower or Eiffel Tower, and the requirement was entrance gallery at ground floor level, restaurant at 100 meters level, observatory deck at 200 meters level, and a viewing gallery at 300 meters. So when we started the design, taking into the principles of steel structure, I didn't want typical pylon kind of steel tower. So I went into some different geometry, and then we had a lot of interaction with the structural engineers, and finally with the help of parametric softwares, we developed this whole geometry. So every glass and steel element is generated through the parametric definition, and this is the final product. So these are the photographs of the model, and you can understand this kind of geometry cannot be achieved through our conventional softwares. So to make the building functional, aesthetical, and probably the iconic, you need to adopt technology. So a combination of conventional or heritage and technology, a good combination can always give you a better building, and the same principle will have to adopt for post-COVID area. This is the views for festive seasons. So you can see you can do a lot of lighting effects and create aesthetical elements out of the same structure. And this is what I believe. Architectural design is like a human body, and every element should have a purpose. It should be functional. This is a photograph taken from your office, Kamlesh, and this is One Avigna Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek sir. Fantastic presentation. It gave us great insight about the balconies, the decks, the green facades. I would not take much time now, and I will request Kiran sir to please share his views and his presentation. Over to you, Kiran sir.
Yeah, just a minute. Okay. Okay, thank you for this opportunity, Kamlesh. Okay, so of course, facade as a skin, facade integrated with gardens, and facade as a function. Of course, it's very important. And thank you, Vivek, for showing us some beautiful slides. In Grain, we have been doing a lot of research on facade, and not only facade, actually for each and every project, but facade is a favorite subject for us. And our underlying principle, what we call it as, is triple E. That first E is efficiency, and efficiency is like efficiency in construction cost, which is very important, going to be important in post-COVID era, and efficiency in energy, that it has to earn energy, it has to save energy, no doubt. All this should happen, but exclusivity has to be there, without any compromise in exclusivity. The building has to be exclusive, no doubt about it. The hospitality aspect of the building should be there, and the imageability, where facade plays very important role, has to be there. And apart from that, the last E, we call it as environment. The sustainability aspects are always there, but in addition to that, we actually focus on making each and every project self-sufficient. So self-sufficient has got some different meaning than sustainability. I'll go to next slide. Now, I'll focus on some untouched issues on facade actually. So facade as a tool to deal with external diverse climatic conditions. Since past, everybody, all our, if you see all our past buildings, historic buildings, you will find the same aspect over there. Somehow in modern era, we have lost that aspect, and we have tried to, we are trying to follow Western architecture actually. And our climate is completely different. Western climate is completely different. So our angle of seeing towards facade has to be completely different. So plus facade has to offer solutions which are contextual, first of all, flexible nowadays in post-COVID area. I'll explain you how. And climate friendly, which is very important, I feel. Something which is climate friendly is always economical. Believe me, we have done a lot of research on that, a lot of costing on that, and climate friendly solutions are always economically found. Facade, there is one more aspect, that facade has to be deeply integrated with ultra modern technology. Attempts have been done, I understand that, but the efficiency we could not achieve actually, and that has to be there in mass production. If we do that thing, we will get surprising results. I'll show you two of the projects what we are trying to do. This project, the left-hand side image is a elevational image, and what we are actually trying to do here, it's a perfect combination of glass and plastered surfaces of different thicknesses, and these plastered surfaces are actually projecting out. If you see the diagram on the right-hand side upper corner, on the west side, it is projecting out more. The red line is a projected surface, and the black line is a building actually. And on the north side, it is less projected. So as you have light, the unwanted light entering into the building, deep into the building, we have maximum protection for the building. And the glass plays two roles. One is a fixed glass at sub intervals, and openable glass. So what happens in Mumbai? We have beautiful climate, in the evening actually. So we can actually open the windows and we can enjoy the wind, in winters, in rainy season, it's really enjoyable. With fixed facade, it's so difficult to enjoy that thing. This facade, we believe, has a very less capital cost, very less maintenance, and at the same time, I don't think it's a prototypical glass facade building. It's a completely different architecture, we feel. So we can achieve everything by making building more and more contextual, making building more and more climate friendly, and still very economical. The same way we are doing one more project in Gujarat area. This is 10-story building, west side in Gujarat. Summer completely gone. I mean, it's like burning side. It's very difficult to tackle this problem actually. Since the road frontage is west side, we have to keep it semi-transparent or transparent. Now, what we did here, it's a west side kind of thing. So what we did here, we have something like this. So we have, instead of having complete glass facade, we are taking glass little inside, and we have louvers, which are GI perforated louvers, which create kind of a semi-transparent facade, double facade kind of system, and but not exactly double facade. It's a porous thing, and then we have a catwalk and a flower bed in between. So whenever we want in the evening, we can really open the window and we can enjoy the evening wind. So plus facade has to give some flexible solutions and very climate friendly solution instead of very fixed facade where air conditioning rates are very high and it's a very expensive affair altogether. So people will really focus on that also. I definitely believe in post-COVID era, people will go for a cost-conscious facade system at the same time, but we have to see something beyond that, because it's like creating cost-conscious facade with no extra elevational features is like going back again, So we have to offer something else by integrating very absolutely latest technology. We'll discuss this thing in our discussion session. Thank you so much. Over to Kamlesh.
Thank you so much, Kiran sir. Thank you for the fantastic presentation. And yes, we definitely, I am sure all the experts will agree that facade has to offer solutions which are contextual, flexible, and climate friendly. So we definitely agree to your vision, and we're good. Over to you, Nitin sir, for the next presentation. We are more than eager to see your views and your presentation. Over to you.
Thank you, Kamlesh. Hello, everyone. Good to see you here, and I hope you're well and safe. I'm going to talk to you about what I feel should be about facades and what I see as the future of facades in this era. So we're going to talk a little bit, not too much, about facades and fenestrations beyond COVID. The idea is to understand what COVID has brought about and how it impacts us. So here's a look ahead and try and see what we can in this period and what it is that can be done. First and foremost, to solve a problem, we must understand the problem, and only then can we find its solutions. So to understand this problem, if you look at a very high level, we see the changes that will be impacted to us in times now onwards, as we keep hearing from experts all over. Social distancing is going to continue. It's a requirement now, not just outside, but within the home as well. Why within the home? Because if someone's unwell, then they need a bit of quarantine. They need to be careful. So you need a bit of social distancing at home. So you need to prepare for that. Hygiene. Part of the reason we have COVID is hygiene. So obviously hygiene is a key consideration in decision making. And I think going forward with facades and facade technology, hygiene is again going to be a very important factor. Next, are we going to be spending more time indoor or more time outdoor, or a combination of both? In the past, what did we do? We spent our day largely in the office or within the home and never really got an opportunity to step out. In this period, some of us are luckier than others, where we've had an opportunity to actually stand out, with no pollution, no industry working, take in fresh air, breathe in the fresh air, and see clear skies. And I think we're all fortunate to have experienced that. But in the times to come, I think we must continue our experiences so that we continue to live life rather than just exist. Supply chain reliability. The one thing all of us have observed and will continue to observe in the next 4, 6, 8 months, maybe even longer, is that there are going to be disruptions to supply chains because transportation travel has ceased, currently intrastate and interstate and intercountry as well. So things that are manufactured overseas will not be so available. So these are due considerations. Of course, there are many more, but these are some of the high-level factors that I think are a consideration. So let's brace for this impact and see what we can do. So while we are doing this, what do we do when it comes to facade? Do we make changes at design levels? Do we make changes at procurement, at production, installation, or the schedule? I think we have to make a change everywhere. A little bit in some, a little more in the others, but I think the impact is everywhere. And we have to think differently. We have to work differently in order to be able to do this. So what are the changes in design? In design, we've got to enhance air tightness so that, we early on had a certain amount of air tightness, and, there's a lot of projects where there should be air tightness, but those projects aren't airtight. But certainly, even good design needs to improve to tighten the air, the apertures that you have in operable panels or wherever tighter. You have to make things tighter so that you have less exchange of air, so that you don't bring in polluted air. You don't have chances of airborne viruses, which may be in the next pandemic, which may be wider than this. So you have to prepare for that. Airlocks at the entrance of a building, at the entrance of your home. Do we need airlocks? Perhaps. And that's another thing that we need to look at that has a substantial impact on the way we're going to have fenestrations used. Procurement, import or local, or 1,000 kilometers or 100 kilometers. As I said, a key issue here is going to be procurement, where we procure our materials from. So do we want to procure for, do we feel stability in materials coming from within a 100-kilometer radius, 200 kilometers, 500 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers, or 10,000 kilometers? So I think the one thing that we do understand, and one key takeaway is that, if you can produce closer home, it's better. Now, I was thinking about it, and I was wondering, how will this come about? Because, the Make in India and discussion and the discussion around production, local procurement has been around for a while, and we've been discussing it a little more now. But the answer to this would not be to, increase customs duties and other levies on imported goods, rather than, make things a little more affordable and find that balance where it's affordable and it becomes to popularize. That means you get highly engineered, great quality products which spread and have a little tax on it, some sort of customs duty, so that it is also, whilst it spreads, there is a balance and makes it feasible to produce in India, because then you'd have the volumes and only then will somebody start producing in India. So, but we certainly should have that. Production, in our production facilities, there has to be social distancing and assembly and ship. So this again goes back to design as well, because design must ensure that there's less and less tasks that need to be done during a production and assembly, where a single person can work and the next person doesn't have to do his operation adjacent to the single person working. So we've got to design production to happen in that manner. Installation, when you take things to site, everything should be ready in the factory. Take them to site, install as quickly as possible, and get out, make sure the building is closed, because there's a lot of trades working on sites, and you want to limit your interaction with other trades as much as possible, because you don't know who is asymptomatic and who's not. and you need to protect yourself. And the faster you get in, the faster you get out, the better you protect yourself. Of course, coming to the earlier, whatever I've said till now, quality is something that it just cannot be. It's not going to be a word that we just utilize for the sake of utilizing. We need to pay a huge amount of attention to quality. And when I say quality, the quality of production, the quality of installation needs to be monitored, because at the end of the day, we can all design what we want, but if we can't put it together and have it done on site correctly, we will still have the air ingress, we'll still have all the issues that projects should not have. And and one of the key factors again is scheduling. Will projects now have shorter timelines? I think anyway, RERA has been pushing for that. So I think in a sense that it's good that that's happened, and I hope there's further acceleration of timelines, reduction in timelines and the times forward, so that developers, and I think the faster we move things, the earlier everybody wins. It's a win-win situation if things move fast. So in my view, these are the key changes that must happen to our industry, and I look forward to implementing a lot of this as much as we can, and as much as an opportunity we get to implement all of this. So that's.
Thank you, Nitin. Great insight on all the do's and the don'ts, and this is what we expect from a facade expert, and you were absolutely bang onto it. Thank you so much for giving a great insight. Over to you, Sureshji. Now, I think we need your shares. You need to share your views about the whole post-COVID situation, the materials, the design, and how could we better it off. Over to you.
Thanks, Kamlesh. So I feel that what my fellow panelists have said is exactly right in terms of design, in terms of what could be done. But I feel that COVID is not going to end here, and precaution is not going to end here. You'll always have vaccination coming in, medication coming in, but that is not the end of the story in terms of facades, at least, because we require more than that. We need something which in terms of materials, in terms of an architect thinking about what he can use for a facade. That will be a key thing in terms of what our industry is going to start thinking on. And in that way, I feel that these are the things which happen these are the key things which are going to be thought about, like in different typologies of buildings, like a hospital, or maybe in a commercial building, or maybe in a institution, or in a hotel. These are the things which are going to happen. The touch and feel, the COVID is going to basically spread due to touch, or due to social distancing. If you don't have social distancing, you're going to have problems. But how do you ensure that you can take care of it? If somebody, like if I press the lift button, if I am a COVID, if I have a coronavirus in me, if I'm an infected patient and I touch the lift button, so basically nobody can check whether it is actually an infected button or not. So somebody may press it and it can get infected. So how do you take care of these things? So what I feel is, over the ages, like 100 years back, they used to take precaution of antimicrobial and antibacterial materials which could be used, which we don't think of. We took it as a cost cutting, and we basically thought it's a luxury item and never used it. So I would like to come back to that. So I think how do we prevent this? We can prevent bacteria attachment and biofilm formation. That is basically you have a film on the surface, so it doesn't attach the bacteria on that. So you don't have a problem of catching getting infected by touching any material. Or what you could do is you could destroy the bacteria by releasing bacterial agents. So there are different types of materials which we don't understand it right now. There are already the research done on these materials, and it is already available, but we take it in a different way. It is marketed in a different way. Or you kill the bacterial cells. So that is the way you can actually take care of the surfaces, which basically is people are prone to getting infected because of the surfaces, not because of just the infection. So one of the ways is, basically having bacterial repelling surfaces or hydrophobic surfaces. Like if you see, there are hydrophobic surfaces available right now in terms of coatings, in terms of materials, you have it, but we don't promote it like that. We don't promote it as an antibacterial. We promote it as a water repellency. We promote it in different ways where a client will start understanding the added advantage of these materials. Now, the second is leachable surfaces. Like, you used to have copper handles, and we used to think it's a luxury, and we went in for stainless steel. Whereas now, if you see the coronavirus if you look at it, copper, it can stay only for maybe 1 to 2 hours. It'll get, it'll die because of the copper properties of the copper. And if you see silver and gold, similarly, they have these nanoparticle technology, which is available right now, which can be used on surfaces, which can kill the bacteria. And in stainless steel, it lasts for maybe 4 days. So you don't know how you can get infected. A patient who has come in 4 days back can infect you with the coronavirus or any other bacterial infection. So we don't realize it because we are already immune to all those other viruses, and we are not immune to this virus because there is no medication right now. Third is contact kill surfaces. Like there are you can put treatment on surfaces where you can avoid bacteria or viruses attaching to it, so that you don't have an issue later. So these are 3 ways to handle this coronavirus or any other virus which will come in future. So these are the chemical surfaces. Like you had, if you look at Asian Paints, if you look at any of these paint manufacturing companies, they promote a durable paint. Now, what is that? It is basically titanium dioxide, which is a ingredient of the paint, which doesn't allow microbial growth, and it reflects UV, and it also doesn't allow. It is more, it can expand and contract. So, but this point was never told to any of the clients, saying that it is also a antibacterial coating. So that is what has already been researched. It's already there. So I think clients should start using these materials. And it's already, some of the projects, they're already using it. So I think this is something which we can use, and we can, it is not a very it's not a very expensive proposal. It can be used for all buildings, and that may happen soon. Other thing is the nano textured surfaces. So you could basically have the surface of the material with a coating, which can have these surfaces, which can kill the bacteria. So you don't allow the bacteria to stay on the surface. So these are all nanos, basically 1,000th of a mm. So it is so tiny that you won't even feel it. But there is technology available right now. So these are some of this titanium dioxide. This is already used for a project in Milan, and there is a project in Mexico where it's used in different applications. So one is used with the ultra high performance concrete, and the other one is used for used with the ABS plastic. But both of them were promoted as smog eating facades. But now it could be also an antibacterial facade. And second is, if you see the central, the image in the middle, that is basically maybe 100-year-old or 80-year-old elevator, the button plate. So if you see that, it's already in bronze, it's in brass, which people used to use it. But now it has been converted into stainless steel because it looks nice. But we don't realize that it can attract bacteria, and the bacteria can stay for a longer time. So if you look on the left-hand side is a copper building, which I think is sustainable. It is a sustainable material, but it's only expensive. I think what will happen soon is the prices may reduce because people will start using it as a material. Because it's going to be the in thing now. In terms of handles, in terms of lift buttons, it will start using it because that is a surface where people are going to touch and feel, and that's where the infection could prolong. Welcome to the facade design challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suresh. Thank you so much, Suresh, sir, for the fantastic presentation on the lots of aspects of how do you use different materials with the bacterial and antibacterial micro things. Thank you so much for a great insight onto the whole. Now, looking at the different views that all the experts have shared, I'm sure that there is going to be a lot of change post-COVID, not only with respect to design, but also with respect to the use of material, application of material, place of material, everything that we discussed, even the schedule we have discussed. So let's take this forward to an interesting interaction. My question to you, Vivek sir, is that home has emerged as the most safest place and the only vaccine available as of now. We are already into 2 months of lockdown and 4 months since the pandemic has emerged. How do you foresee evolution of design changes and materials, as you mentioned in your presentation and all other experts have also mentioned? What is the change that you see and how fast this change will be seen?
Okay. What I believe actually that this is not going to stop here. We are just seeing a virus which has come back after some mutation, and this is going to happen time and again. You rightly said that only our houses, our homes, they have saved us. But believe me, they are not the ideal homes which are designed, and something is better than nothing, that we can say. But if you see, these pandemics are there for ages, centuries, and you check our ancestors. They used to fight these pandemics through very religious activities of hygiene and urban planning. If you even check the houses, they used to have jharokas, balconies, central courtyards, and that is what was actually saving them from different diseases. And right now, what we are looking at in our surrounding are those matchboxes, and we are calling them houses, and we are forced to take the support of the substandard system what we have. So there will be changes, there will be substantial changes in the way the built environment is being designed right now, and the changes should start from the regulation itself. I believe that we'll have to go back to our roots. We'll have to use the technology, but we'll have to go back to the roots.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that great. I do agree with you that we all have to go back to our roots and respect Earth, which we have not been doing so. So we have all learned that we need to respect the nature. We need to respect the Earth. My question to you, Kiran sir, is people living in houses need openness. The need of openness is coming everywhere. Need to stretch themselves, needs comes. So the importance of balconies and open areas in the houses. How do you look at that, and how do you visualize improving the indoor atmosphere quality with the current rules of the DCR? Will that implementing will be a challenge, or you feel that it will be, what is your view?
See, this government has already started de-densifying the congested areas. So hopefully they'll start, concentrating on present DCR, usage of present DCR in post-COVID era. And I really believe, when I say contextual is like close to climate, we have to deal with climate. Now in Mumbai, climate is humid. You need balcony. Decks are actually appreciated. So we have to have some changes in DCR where balconies are encouraged. I'm saying right now we cannot take it. I'm not saying we can take it, but it is not encouraged, actually speaking. But apart from that, if you see little beyond that, I would say again facade can contribute a lot in that. We have to have some sort of a different. See, I really believe that it's a new beginning for us. It's a great opportunity for us. There is no west and there is no east here. We are equal. We are on the equal platform. We have to shoot up now. So in this thing, we have equal opportunity. We have to look at it from different perspective, where we have to create solution for our country, basically. And for facade, I say, if we start integrating, for example, I'll tell you, there is no great change in real estate as such. We don't want to change here. Architecture, there is a lot of changes happening. Architecture has changed a lot. But since Renaissance era, we are selling big houses for big cost. Big houses are costlier. Small houses are cheaper. And right now also big houses are costlier and small houses are cheaper. Actually look at the technology, what they are doing. Sleeker the mobile, you are costlier the mobile actually. So there is absolutely lack of integration of technology, latest technology in architecture also and in real estate also, not only architecture I'm saying. So what I feel that as a facade we should offer something different, with the help of this technology, which is in mass production will be cheaper. So it's all about mass production, and what facade can do, what we are working on, really speaking from our architect's perspective, I'm telling you, whenever we want we can have balcony, and whenever we want we can convert it into room. Of course, apart from DCR, let us forget DCR for 2 minutes, but we should work on these things where we can really use this technology to create this kind of spaces. And I would say the facade should absorb, it should contribute to city also. We have to create some kind of a facade which can absorb the pollution outside, which can generate water from environment, which can generate a lot of energy, which can integrate it with air conditioning system actually, and which can help us to stop fire inside. So a lot of things are possible. The only thing is we have to reopen our eyes. We have to see this thing as an opportunity than crisis. And there is a really silver lining in post-COVID era. I'll tell you, we have to just catch this opportunity. Everybody, I'm saying, So this is what I feel.
Thank you, Kamlesh.
Thank you so much, Kiran sir, for the insight on the openness and the balconies and the need of the hour. I will now go back to Vivek sir on discussion about, we've been talking about be vocal, buy local, Atmanirbhar is a new slogan, and we are all inching towards make in India and make for India. So with the above, all the design evolutions and the changes in design and material intent, how do you see this industry geared up? Do you see challenges in the successful adaptation and implementation on the ground zero? Your views on that, sir.
Okay, Kamlesh, when we talk about be vocal and buy local, the government will have to be really very proactive in that. When we say we have to save our manufacturers, because finally, when I choose something, it should be as per my quality. Now, to produce for that kind of quality, looking at the labor problems what we are going to face in near future, the government will have to be really very proactive. Otherwise, it is exactly reverse. You will have to be eventually, you will have to start importing again, and you can say be introvert and start import instead of be vocal. So, the way government is looking at MSMEs, and we had this seminar on MSMEs and architectural firms 2 days back on same platform, and there the picture, the reality is totally different. The government is asking all the manufacturers to take more loan to survive. If that is so, then this slogan is just for the sake of slogan. Let's not open a new Pandora box altogether.
I completely agree with you, and that is my personal view also on that we already are living into something, and we have been asked to add more burden to the whole situation is definitely not going to help, and is the question of the hour. So same question now, going back to Nitin, you made a presentation, and in your presentation you did mention the importance about 500 kilometers, 5,000 kilometers. So how do you see this be vocal, buy local? Are we really geared up? Is the industry geared up to use the different materials? And where are we at ground zero?
If you see in the current environment, there's a lot that we buy local already. There are some materials that are imported and used, but largely, we don't import. If I'm not mistaken, 90% of the projects don't use any imported materials. It may be a foreign brand, but they're already manufacturing here, and we're using that. So which is a good thing. But there are some materials which are not manufactured here, and the reason they're not manufactured here is because there isn't enough scale for usage of that material, and there isn't enough scale for usage of that material because it's not being specified, because it's costly, not because, and of course it's not very well known. Those practices, the design practices, aren't very well known. People do not suggest them to the architects or clients to use, and they should be the order of the day. Now, I think that is going to widen. Regulation has to come in, stronger regulation has to come in, where such material use is regulated. It's part of what needs to be done and must be done, and therefore, there's more scale to the material quantum that is required, which will bring about eventual manufacture within the country. We are a large consumer. It's not that we're not. We have, hundreds and thousands of buildings under construction all the time. And why should we not be manufacturing everything here? There's enough room for it. So the only reason it's not being manufactured here yet is because the material is either not known of, or it's not being used, because there is a cheaper alternative available, which is not necessarily better. Cheap is not better, and neither is expensive better. But there are materials which are out there which should be used. So to conclude it, yes, I feel more and more manufacturing needs to be done here. Closer home, more innovation needs to come about, because that's something that's not really here. We are not innovating new materials. Must happen. Kiran was mentioning, facades playing a larger role in air conditioning, in energy generation, and there, I've been talking to others as well, the way they talk about, each unit being compartmentalized and doing its own sort of thing to assist sustainability of each building. So there's a lot that can be done. Money needs to be poured into R&D. Money needs to be poured into manufacturing, and I hope it gets done.
Okay, so over to you. Thanks, Nitin, for that. Over to you, Sureshji. You mentioned about
Kamlesh,
the new.
I have something to add in this. It's a very important topic, and everybody will agree with me that manufacturing is one sector, but designing is one more sector. And I really believe we have very good designers, architects, facade designers, and all other designers. It's not that we cannot design in a better way. It's only a vicious circle what you find everywhere in India. It's a fees against design, the deliveries against fees, all these vicious circle. We have to change our mindset. Real estate industry has to change their mindset. We have done wonderful projects, and I'm sure Nitin and Vivek and everybody has done wonderful projects. We can do wonderful things, actually, all Indian architects and facade designers. I think councils, and if I don't know whether there is some council or some organization which is controlling facade consultants also, but they should play important role here. It's a very good opportunity. Let us not lose it. They have to pull their sleeves and they have to play important role. We can do wonders, I'll tell you.
So I agree with you completely. And if you go and see the China model, and if you learn from China, if you can take some tips from China only in terms of what the commercial terms are, they've been selling throughout the world. They've been selling to all. There is no credit line given to anyone. And that's a very, very important point, which is going to be the change post-COVID, which is what I feel. So thanks, Kiran sir, for that input. Sureshji, I'll coming back to you. You mentioned about the antibacterial and the microbacterial material. So with the new designs, we have the designers who are going to put new designs and new materials which will be introduced, which shall include, as you mentioned. Can you throw some light on the application of those materials in the facades and the design? How do we add which are not only expensive but add performance and aesthetics? So your thoughts on that.
So I would say first is, your wall, your paint. It could be a titanium dioxide enriched paint, which could basically be durable, and it could also be long lasting. And again, it's basically more of, you're using a material which is fungal and antibacterial and all that stuff. So that becomes one of the areas where you have your residential, hospitals, all these buildings coming up in that category. Second is, you're in design, we're talking of, we think stainless steel is the best material because it doesn't corrode. We know only that aspect of it, but it's not good in terms of bacteria. So after post-COVID, what will happen is the thinking process is going to change. In what material could be used in terms of where there's a touch and feel. Like, when I'm going to hold a handle of the door, I would not go for a stainless steel handle after post-COVID, because that is something which I would like to change it to maybe brass or something like that. Or maybe I would coat the stainless steel with a nanotechnology, which I can get this, I can prevent bacteria from, attaching itself to the material. That is one thing. Second is for the facade. Facade, it's only the cleaners who are going to touch it. It's not for glass. Glass is not going to change. You're not going to change the materials which are basically clad onto the building, except for, maintenance part. There's nothing else which is going to change there. And I think more to do with stone, we'll start using natural materials more because they've already sustained over time. So I think instead of having, synthetic material, we start using more natural materials. I think that is what is going to change.
But Suresh, here I would like to add something. The facade is not just from outside, it is from inside as well. So people can touch glass and aluminum from inside, and that is where your nano coatings and different materials will be required.
So I just want to take everybody.
So your PVDF coating, it may become with titanium dioxide. Then they may start using that as a technology for coating the aluminum, so that you don't have microbial growth. You can't make it in brass. It is not possible. It's going to be a huge investment.
So one very important point here we touched is, we have, taps in our houses, many of the hotels we go, and we've got sensor technology. When we just go near to it and, the water comes out. Do you think the sensor technology is going to play a role in the facades?
I think it will be a maintenance issue. It can't be sustainable. All these sensors are basically, it's not going to be sustainable. I think if you look at something which is more practical for a common use, for a layman. Like a hotel, it's not the same customer. It's not a high-end customer who's going to go and who's going to use this. So you need something which is more innovative and more simple for people to understand.
Okay, so now coming back to the whole situation wherein we are looking at, are we geared up to handle such innovative materials and such things like that? How about everything cannot be manufactured? We are not experts into everything. There is a lot of technology transfer which we will require. What are the experts' view? Everybody over here, I would like to have a quick view on this, on the Apple model, where you've seen Apple. Apple is being, is an American product. It's American, but being manufactured. The SOPs are there. So how do you see that? And do you see in future that such thing is going to be there and is going to be add to the local definition and the local production? So I'll start with Vivek, sir. Sir, your views on that.
Certainly, Kamlesh, I do believe that the government has not announced it, so they will have to make the policies for that. Till today, the global economies were open. Now, because of this pandemic, all the economies are going to be self-centered. They are going to now focus on their own issues first and their own economies first. And the global and open economy, all those concepts are going to finish. So suppose that happens anyway, as we previously discussed, that all of us are almost using 90% of the material locally. And whatever we really require, that can be forced to be manufactured here. Suppose we require some particular material and we are importing it from Germany, and if I got cheaper options available here, I'll first go for it. If not, then we'll have to force these people to manufacture here in India, and we'll have to adopt that as a practice, adopt made in India.
Yeah, quick view from Kiran, sir. A quick view onto it, sir.
See, I feel if it is a requirement, then I think invention is possible. Actually, really speaking, if you see in many other fields, people have done that thing. So we have to do that thing, And of course, government has to create that policy, no doubt about it. Our organizations architects or consultants, they have to push this factor and they have to get it done. Of course, that's fine. I mean, I agree with that. We have to do something.
Nitin sir, your view on that?
I think it's already been happening and it will continue to happen. It comes down to economy of scale, and as soon as scale picks up, the economics make it happen here anyway. So the question is, can it be accelerated? That's where regulation comes in. If eventually all those things will happen, regulations will bring it in earlier. So for sure.
Suresh, your quick view on this?
I think post-COVID is not only for India, it's all over. So everybody is going to change their codes for a more healthy environment. And soon what is going to happen is after post-COVID, maybe import from China to all the countries may stop a little bit, it'll reduce, and maybe, all these countries will start manufacturing. They'll have more of manufacturing, maybe they'll export also soon. It's possible because right now, because of Chinese material, it's more inexpensive. So people are buying it from there. So later it may happen that, there is a change in the economy.
See, India as a country, we have the resource, we have the capability, we have the cost competitiveness. Right. We are lacking in infrastructure, we are lacking in efficiency, we are lacking in quality. So these are the three major things, I think, which we all will have to look at, and we have to move if we have to go about the export criteria and the make in India criteria,
Sure.
Because all these companies would want quality.
Sure.
Okay, I'll go to the final question onto it, and this last question is this about when we're talking about the latest trends, the technologies, everything. So they are going to be like, Vivek sir, in that presentation, I saw the parametric facades you mentioned. You mentioned about parametrics and design. I know that subject is very, very close and near and dear to your heart. Dynamic glasses, like Sage, View, Halios, solar glasses, and many of them, which are not only energy saving, but energy generation also. How do you see the future of this technology and these products? Would you be implementing them in your projects? Is India ready to take this? What are the experts' view onto it? So a quick, from all of you, a quick bite.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Kamlesh, in the beginning, you rightly said that our houses saved us, but what saved our income? The technology. How we are doing this webinar, how we are working from home. Was it possible 20 years back? So only technology has saved our livelihood. Okay, and that is going to happen. So something what you cannot ignore, inevitable is technology, implementation of the technology. And when it comes to parametric, people have got this stereotype that parametric is just something to do with aesthetics. Don't call it parametric, call it computational engineering, call it digital engineering, digital architecture, whatever. You need digital technology to implement your facades in an effective way. Now you want social distancing in your factories, in your fabrication units. You will see in near future the robotic arms assembling units to 100% automation. Right now also, I believe your factory must be having automation, but it is not 100%. You will see it's like manufacturing of a car. So hardly a dozen of people are handling a full plant. And more than that, the whole ready-made unit will be installed on site with robotic arms, arm cherry picker possibly. And people are just operating it. Now in near future, labor is going to be a big issue. Social distancing on site is not maintainable subject. So although we are trying to do it, but without technology, nothing is going to happen. And I think digital is the only solution. So digital is right from designing. What you design digitally can only be executed digitally and vice versa. So I think that is inevitable, and India is ready for it. This is the best time for it, and we are ready for it.
Kiran sir, quick view from you, sir.
See, I agree with that most of the people are talking about that post-COVID area. People will be more cost conscious and they'll go for less aesthetics and more functional only facade kind of system. But it's for some time, I believe, because it's a new start. So I believe that people, after some time, all these energy generation and what I'm talking about, technology, integrated systems, facades, all these new things has to come up. And in mass production, cost is not my worry, and acceptance is not my worry. But what happens, till today, people did not, I mean, it was difficult for them to accept things, but any calamity, changes that acceptance level actually. So this is the opportunity. People will accept it, cost will come down, and I'll tell you, mark my words, people will actually go for this technology integrated systems only. It is very, very important. It is almost like you are having some money put in, you're kept in bank, and you are enjoying interest. So energy generation is like interest of that capital cost. So it is very important thing. We have to focus completely on that. Thank you.
Hi, Nitin, your view on that?
I think it is part of. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think it's a part of the evolution of facades, and technology growth is part of it, and will continue on. It's been happening in the last couple of decades where things have been improving, things have been changing, more and more technology is being used. What we did last year, we didn't do the year before, and so on and so forth. The only question is, like I said earlier, there may be acceleration, and I think it does. I think it's time that we accelerated and and did things the way advanced facades are done in other parts of the world. There's no reason for us to be behind. I don't think it's a question of just cost. I think it comes down to design intent and knowing what to do. And once you do, I think it will become more and more popular. So my thumbs up to advancement in this area.
Sureshji, your views on that?
So what I feel is with the advancement of technology, like what you're talking of solar panels, the electrochromic glass and different new technologies which are coming, it's already there in some of the projects right now in India. We are using it already. Only thing is it's not in a big, it's not popular. The reason is because of the cost. So maybe if there is a technology transfer, maybe if companies start having their, factories here to manufacture such a product, then I think things will change. Like Senco, if they start manufacturing it here, the electrochromic glass, then I think it will change. The cost will change. So then it will be beneficial to the Indian industry. So I think these technologies are already there. Like solar panels also, I think being a tropical country is the best use of solar panels. But the point is it's all about cost. Because you have countries which are giving it at such low cost that you can't afford to produce it in India. So I think that is where the challenge is, and I think it should happen. And parametric facade, definitely what is going to happen is will be more of robotics, like what Vivek said. You can't do it otherwise. It can't be just hand-drawn and done. So I think things will change. I think the facade contractors will also start building up their software to cater to the requirement of the clients and architects.
Fantastic.
Kamlesh, I would like to. I'm sorry.
Please go ahead, sir.
Suresh, please go ahead. Suresh, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Kamlesh, I think the facade contractors also need to gear up with the technology in terms of using high-end softwares to cater to the architect's request or architect's design. So I think that is lacking. That's the reason why things may change in the future.
Okay.
So Kamlesh, I would like to add in this. I have one live example. One of my friends is a doctor, and he was in US for 17 years. He came back here, and he was in nanotechnology, and especially for solar panels actually. So he has a patent, and he has developed 55% efficiency panels. Can you believe this? But the only thing is, for mass production, it's going to take crores and crores of rupees actually, and there is no government policy for that actually. It's a sad thing. Since last 6 years he's sitting here, and there is no development in government policies actually. So we have to, of course, government will take care of this thing. I'm not saying no. There are very advancement in that. So, but we have to see that we have people, very, very capable people. Only thing is they need little push. That's it. We can create really good things, in-house.
So with this, we end the discussion on the interesting session for strategy for evolution in design and materials post COVID. We have received a lot of questions from a lot of audience, which is there. We are ready to answer that. And yeah, over to you, audience now.
Hello everyone. IDAC is a knowledge sharing platform and we have launched Ask IDAC, an interactive networking platform for the build professionals of the construction industry. We've got a lot of interesting questions from the audience. Due to time constraints, our panelists will be able to answer only a few, but we will make sure that your questions don't go unanswered. All the pending questions will be answered by our industry solvers on www.askidac.com. So don't forget to sign up after this question answer round. Over to you, Mr. Chaudhary.
Hey, thank you, Devanshi. Thank you for the full session. It has been really immense pleasure to have you all panelists and experts view on this. Thank you once again. There are a lot of questions and there is a lot of curiosity from the audience. And my first question straight here is to Vivek sir. Vivek sir, there is a question from Amit from Mumbai. The steel iconic tower looks amazing and it seems to be a great landmark in the making. What are the challenges as regards to the parametric designing and manufacturing? And the buck doesn't stop over here. How do you manage the challenges of the cost? Over to you, Vivek sir.
Okay, Kamlesh, now when we started the design, my structural engineer is Girish Dravid, Sterling Engineering. So I explained him the idea. I wanted not to use the ready-made sections, steel sections. So we decided to use steel plates instead. And if you can find a presentation, a detailed presentation is there on YouTube of this project. It's almost like 30 minutes presentation where I have explained how I came to this idea of making a design out of steel plates. So the inspiration was taken by one of the pavilion design where I used paper as a structural material, and I designed a pavilion of 15 meter by 5 meter and almost like 5.5 meter tall structure, a pavilion with paper. So I used the same concept. I showed this to Girish, and initially he had some reservations, and then after some calculations, he agreed that this is a better structural system. And if you see the form is designed to take the gravitational force. It's a very stable form. As far as parametric is concerned, I'm doing parametric for quite some time. And initially, I started with form finding methods. So there are different form finding techniques in these softwares. So once the basic form was derived, then I went into the minute detailing. We went into the detailing to such an extent that the maximum size of the plate which is available with Steel Authority of India was limited. So how to weld number of plates to create one element. So trays will be formed and they will be cut with CNC and will be bolted on site. So piece by piece, this will be erected on site, almost like 36,000 steel plate pieces to be assembled on site. So this is a very interesting project. Now let's see, it's at the final stage of decision, and we'll see how it moves ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, and definitely we look forward to this.
I forgot one point. The cost was given 230 odd crores is the project cost. It is that way cheaper than the conventional steel system.
Now, just to relate commerce more interesting, 230 crores for how many tons of material? Can you just throw some light on that so that there is easy budgeting?
See, basically it's a Steel Authority of India's project. So I think for them, their product, display of their product is very important. And this being a very monumental project, I think it's a small price what they are going to invest into it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, sir, for that insight. My question to Kiran, sir, there is a question from Mr. Manoj. Thank you for the super presentation, very crisp and specific. So the project in Gujarat, which is like a double skin facade. So how do you address the challenges of visibility and vision from inside the office, looking outside? Since we have a double skin, does this really matter? And how do you address the same? And to continue that same question, there is another question that whether you use the SGU, single glaze unit, or a double glaze unit in place of double glaze unit to balance the cost and budget. What is your view on that?
Your mic.
It's from inside. It's a single glaze unit, openable windows, as I said, to enjoy the wind in the evening. And from outside, we have a GI fins with a lot of perforations. So if I have to compare it with kind of Volvo bus, from outside you see all the advertisements. Actually, from inside you have a reasonably clear vision. So that kind of thing. And this building cost, I'll tell you, this facade cost is 830 rupees a square feet. So it's a very, very economical facade, and all the glass panels, GI panels, all are perfectly designed as per whatever industry standards are there as per that.
Okay. So thank you so much. There is another point which is there on the same building, because that building seems to be the most hot spot building in the entire thing. About what were the materials you had used in this building?
As I said, these are GI fins basically with perforations, and this is a specially coated GI fins. And inside we have simple SGUs. That's it. Openable things. That's it. And
sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Kiran sir, for that. Going to Nitin sir, as a facade expert, there is a question from Vinay from Mumbai. And as you rightly said, there needs to be little or some or the other changes in terms of design to materials to installation. What is going to be what's going to be the ideal cycle for the same? How important factory manufacturing and CKD panels ready to install from factories? Will this be one of the major change post-COVID? And given the labor challenges, also, will it have a cost impact?
I think CKD and pre-manufactured panels is already the way to go, and that's what should be done. I know majority of projects don't really follow that, but they should do so. The entire installation time cycle will reduce. If that is done, quality of work will be a lot better. Things will be far more in control. So certainly factory-made products are the way to go. Now, as far as labor is concerned, whether we have labor issues or not, if you look at any geography, things do move forward for a variety of reasons, labor being one of them. But I don't think we should just consider labor being the driver to do that. I think what we should do is consider moving to factory-made products because of better quality, because of faster timelines, and therefore net result is a saving. The saving in time will become saving in cost for the project. So that's the way to go. So the entire life cycle must be fastened, must be accelerated, and can be done if you're manufacturing and then moving products to site.
Fantastic. As rightly said, I think reducing the time at site and completion, getting faster execution is also a money-making process for the contractors. You have rightly said it. So let's move to Sureshji now. My question to you is come from an audience. It's how will you get people to join offices without fear, and can Facade play a role in it? That's the question.
I think Facade, I think coming to offices is more to do with hygiene. So I think social distancing and I think, pest control of the office is important. And also planning the staff, planning the attendance of the staff, telling them 50%, keeping a social distancing in the office is what is important. So I think Facade plays a very little role compared to post-COVID right now. But soon the new facades will have a different role, in terms of materials, in terms of durability, in terms of, antibacterial paints and all those things.
So the next question goes following this is, like you mentioned, use of antibacterial paints and titanium dioxide for facades. The question, are they harmful for human health?
I think what has happened is it's already been used. So right now, most of the paints which Asian Paints gives as a durable paint for 15 years is basically having titanium dioxide. Only thing it is not promoted in that, because that is not required at that point of time as a brand. That statement was not required. Nobody thought that there will be a COVID or a coronavirus case in future. They thought only, it has to be smog eating or it has to be, self-cleaning. That is what was promoted. The self-cleaning is basically antibacterial, because when you have water, when the paint absorbs water, you have fungus growth. That is again bacteria and fungus. So that is the reason why it was not promoted before, but it's not harmful. That's the answer.
Right now we are talking about the virus and the bacteria. I think two different subjects, or how?
A virus is smaller than the bacteria. That's what I understand. I don't know much of biology.
So moving, thanks for that great input. My last question, and going back to the architects Vivek sir and Kiran sir, is can we learn to design with permanent finishes, and can the architects be made responsible for selecting the facade material in such a way that they will last as long as the building?
Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah.
Okay, see what is happening, Kamlesh. Now, whenever we get a project, if it is government project, like iconic project, let's say that tower, or maybe there are projects like I'm designing one very nice project called Shiv Srushti. This is in Mandi in Himachal Pradesh, where we are replicating 12 Jyotirlingas. Now, they initially gave us a budget of 40 crores. We are asking for 200 crores. Now 40 crores and 200 crores, there is a lot of difference. Now what is that difference? When you select a material, every material has got life, and the longevity depends upon that material specification. And when they specify in any government project, now they say the project should be designed for 100 years life, or maybe 200 years life. The projects can be designed up to 300 years life, but the cost will be quite high. Now, if you see the monumental structures, like let's say Statue of Unity, you cannot design such a project with shorter lifespan. It will be waste of material and resources. So the budget is very, very important. Depending upon your client and his budget and the requirement of the project itself, the material selection can be decided. There are materials.
Okay. Kiran sir, your quick view on that, and then we wrap up this session.
Of course, it is important, no doubt. I would I would like to add in that innovation and economy will be key factors, in tomorrow's world. And definitely, I would say that a new definition of aesthetic will be efficiency now. So that says everything, I guess.
I think, thank you. It was a great session, and thank you once again, Vivek sir, Kiran sir, Suresh ji, Nitin ji. Fantastic. You have really had deep insight, and I'm sure the audience have liked it. We look forward to many more sessions, and thank you so much once again. Over to you, Devanshi.
A big thank you
so
for the
much.
focus and knowledge shared this evening. Special thank you to you, Architect Vivek Khole, Architect Kiran Kale, Mr. Suresh Kyar, Mr. Nitin, and Kamlesh ji for moderating this session. It's an honor to hear this for its first hand from you all, the professionals like you all. Now, I also want to thank a special thank you to our sponsor for today, Stonelamp Laminum. We thank our audience for tuning in this evening, showing support. And if you have any further queries, please contact Team IDAC. The unanswered questions will be answered by the build professionals of the industry on www.askidac.com. So I request the audience to sign up now. Stay home, stay safe, and stay healthy. Thank you so much. Logging off.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.